What up? What up? What up, Entourage? Welcome back. And what a wild week two was it? I mean, we got so much to cover, guys. Derrick Henry, Tyler Lockett. What's going on with AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk, CEH, fumbling? Do we have something to worry about here? Well, guys, we're going to find out about that and a lot more. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it.
The fantasy football Entourage for winning.
Well, Entourage, before we do a quick recap of week two, that may not be so quick because sometimes I just get on rants and I start rambling. I want to remind everybody, if you're new to the channel, first off, give it a sub, give it a like, but also that I have a crypto project. For those who are new to the space, crypto is the future. You might have heard something called NFTs. This is something that I also look to get into through this project that I started a couple months back. It's called Fantasy Tokens, the first ever fantasy football cryptocurrency. You can find out more about it at fantasytoken.io. But what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to build a community. Yes, I want to build this through us. This is going to be our token for the fantasy football community. So if you're looking to get involved right now, specifically, I need artists. If you're a graphic designer, if you always dreamed of making digital assets and NFTs, let's get together. Let's work together. I want to build this from the ground up. I want to build this within our community, and then you'll also have stake in the community and the brand. And hopefully one day this will become an actual business. But right now it's just a community token. I'm invested in it. A lot of you have already invested in it, and I want to take this thing to the moon. So definitely let me know if you're a digital artist, or maybe you're really good at promoting, communicating. I need somebody to run the Telegram group. I need somebody to help promote and get the word and spread the word about this project. So let me know, guys, if you're interested, or you just want to know more about it. You just want to get involved and help out any which way you can. You can email me, fantasyfootballrapper@gmail.com. Just put fantasy token on the headline. You could comment here. You can DM me on Instagram at fantasyfootballrapper. But I wanted to throw that out there because with all this stuff that's going on right now with cryptocurrency, with NFTs, it's definitely a great opportunity to get in early, and you could be one of the first investors and one of the first team members of this community to help grow this thing and keep pushing the word forward. But anyway, now to why we are here. Week two recap. Let's get it. All right. Sorry, I do not know what just happened there. Okay. Bears versus Bengals. Okay, this was kind of a sloppy game. Not a whole lot of action going on here. Joe Burrow, 3 picks in 3 passes at one point, did not look good. I don't really like what I've seen out of Zach Taylor with this offense. It's kind of stale. You would think with the playmakers they have, I mean, look, they have playmakers all over the field. We're talking about T. Higgins, who led the team in targets. Jamar Chase, who had another long touchdown. Tyler Boyd actually played good, but they're just not – they haven't been that dynamic. Like, I expect to see something like the Cowboys, what Kellen Moore does. He's a great offensive coordinator. As bad as Mike McCarthy is as a coach, I think they should be running that type of high potent offense because they also got a running game to go with that. And their offensive line, it's bad, but it's been worse. And when you have a good run game, it also helps your offensive line because the offensive linemen rather run block than pass block. But now I think they're just doing too much of that. Like, I get it. Mixon, you want to set it up. But when you're not really using the run game to set up the pass game, then everybody suffers. And Mixon, good amount of touches, had over 20 carries again, didn't do a whole lot with it. But I just think the offense as a whole has to open things up. So I didn't really like what I saw out of the Bengals. Hopefully that will change. But if you got Higgins, you're happy, leading the team in targets, back-to-back touchdowns. Same thing with Chase. Tyler Boyd finally showing some life. So it's interesting that they can, even in a bad game, they were able to make 3 receivers relevant. But Mixon, I guess, was the short end of the stick this week. As far as the Bears, another stale offense. Montgomery can't build on what he did in week 1. But again, like Mixon, you got to like the touches, over 20 of them. So eventually the points will follow the volume. So I'm not worried about him. Justin Fields took over, I believe, in the second quarter. He wasn't all that impressive. He wasn't one of the rookies that I've been talking up. Now, can he play better? Absolutely. But it remains to be seen whether Justin Fields can truly be special or whether he'll be just another special athlete. Because, yes, I like him in the sense that he could get points with his legs. But as a passer, he didn't really look all that great throwing an interception himself. Chicago snuck out with a win. However, Allen Robinson had his first touchdown of the year. Mooney led the team in targets, but nobody really did anything. Nobody really did anything on either offense. Like I said, for the Bengals, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, a touchdown saved them, and Tyler Boyd was okay, but nothing really that crazy. Hopefully that would change because, again, both offenses kind of have some playmakers, so you would expect more. Moving on to the Browns and the Texans. What's going on with the Browns defense? They were one of my favorite plays, thinking, okay, it's the Texans. They're at home, and I don't know, somebody needs to lose their job, whether it's a defensive coordinator or maybe change the scheme or something, because I feel like every year the Browns on paper have athletes, high draft picks all over that defense, and every year they just continue to disappoint. Sometimes I think they play down to the competition. Maybe that's what happened with the Texans, but the Texans, this should have been a blowout. It ended up being a pretty convincing victory, but that was only until the Texans got their third string quarterback, because Tyrod's technically their second string. He went out, didn't play the second half at all. He's injured with a hammy, so we'll see if their backup Davis will start in week 3. But man, Brandon Cooks, 9 catches, 78 yards. He looks really good. But outside of Brandon Cooks, and even him, especially if it's Davis, the quarterback, he will probably struggle as well. So probably be one of my sell high candidates. But nevertheless, 9 catches, 78 yards, a touchdown, another great game. Kudos to Brandon Cooks, always coming through, no matter the team, no matter the quarterback. For the Browns side of the ball, nothing really to write home about on their offense either. I mean, Nick Chubb, I thought this was a blowout game for him. And yeah, he had 95 yards rushing and a touchdown, which is decent. Only 11 carries, though. I thought this was going to be like a 25-point Nick Chubb type of game because, again, it's Houston. They're at home, and maybe it would have been. But in this game, they gave Kareem Hunt, who had half of his production with more carries, they gave him 13 carries to Chubb's 11, so that kind of stinks. But I guess they want to preserve Chubb. I don't know, but not much to like out of either offense. Moving quite along here. Rams and Colts, Stafford, and more importantly, Cooper Kupp. Wow, this guy has been an absolute beast. 2 touchdowns. What do you have? 163 yards, 9 catches. You can't say enough about this guy. And he was somebody that I was touting quite a bit. Stafford has known to target the slot. Cooper Kupp, I always felt, was a better talent than Robert Woods, and now we're seeing it here with Matt Stafford. What's his name? Darrell Henderson got hurt. Sony Michel looked good. What he had? 10 carries, I believe, 46 yards. It's going to be interesting to see whether Henderson plays in week 3. Remember, I've been warning you guys. I think he was actually on my sell list last week. Remember, guys, if you are interested in getting the complete trade targets, make sure you email me fantasyfootballrapper@gmail or DM at fantasyfootballrapper on Instagram. It's only $20 for the year, and you'll get a complete list of targets, waivers, rankings. But going back to Darrell Henderson, I warned about him. He looks injured. I don't know how serious it is, but I hate these situations, especially when Sony Michel is probably even the better talent. However, before Henderson got injured, he did play pretty good. He put up numbers. He had a touchdown. he had 3 catches for 29 yards and then 13 rushes for 53 yards and a touchdown. So not bad. But again, it might be one of those situations where, you know, he might be on the downside, especially with Sony Michel looking as good as he did. And then we got Colts. A lot of like boring offenses. Jonathan Taylor still hasn't blown up. He did have, the most carries, 15 carries. What do you have? Like 51 yards. But he played less than 50% of the snaps. It's not like Hines played a ton or Marlon Mack got his first action of the year. But I think there will be better days for Jonathan Taylor. We'll just have to be patient on that one. Michael Pittman looks like he had a breakout game. He had 9 catches for 123 yards. And then Pascal, second straight week with a touchdown. He had 2 the first week, one this in week 2, and Carson seems to be favoring him. Carson Wentz, by the way, he got injured that game, so we'll see how severe it is, but he might be in jeopardy of missing week 3, which would suck for Jonathan Taylor and the Colts playmakers, if that's what you want to call them. This was just a sloppy game. Tua got injured early. Brissett couldn't do anything. 35-0 Bills. Interesting part of it, Josh Allen didn't really do a whole lot. He did enough to win. He had over 30-something yards rushing, had 2 touchdowns, 200 yards passing. So nothing crazy. Diggs 4 catches for 60 yards himself and a touchdown. But the running backs, Devin Singletary led that backfield once again, 13 carries, including a 46-yard touchdown run. And then Zach Moss, who was in active week 1, he had 2 touchdowns. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of that when it comes to the Bills. They're still throwing offense. But Miami, their strength is a secondary. Their weakness is a run. We saw Damian Harris in week 1 had 100 yards in them as well. So this could be a situation where you could sell high on Devin Singletary. Miami, Myles Gaskin, another lackluster game. Waddle leads the team in receiving once again. But nothing to really say about this Miami offense, unfortunately. Again, this was one of those weeks where it was just like a lot of just like lackluster offenses, and either that or just like really blow up games. Seems like that's what the 4:00 games was, but not a whole lot of firepower, including the Patriots and the Jets. Mac Jones, he's just a game manager right now. Speaking of Damian Harris, he had a nice game. Would he have 62 rushing yards and a touchdown? But most of that came on a 26-yard touchdown run where the Jets just forgot how to tackle. But his upside is limited. You see, week 1, he had a nice game. He had 100 yards, but no touchdown. So in PPR, that's not a lot of points. And this week, he didn't really have a lot of yards, but he had a touchdown. But again, both weeks, he didn't have the passing work. But you know who did have the passing work is and actually led the Patriots receivers was James White. So it looks like he's back in the mix. 5 receptions, 45 yards. He also had a rushing touchdown. Jets, not much to like. Zach Wilson, I do think there'll be better days. He threw 4 interceptions. I'm not down on Zach Wilson because we have to put everything in perspective. Listen, the Jets don't have a great offensive line. Right now, their left tackle's out, and they're not even that good with him. Belichick, he does this to rookies. Remember Sam Darnold? I think I was seeing ghosts. And a reporter actually asked Zach Wilson. It was freaking hilarious. And I love his response because the reporter was like, hey, Zach, did you think you were seeing ghosts? And he was like, no, absolutely not. Like he just like talked to him like, bro, you're fucking stupid. So I do like that response. Corey Davis was a flop. Elijah Moore, interesting enough, played the most snaps out of every receiver. So I do think that there could be some upside for Moore. Remember, rookie quarters, I don't think the Patriots have the best defense this year for fantasy or reality, but I do think when it comes to facing rookie quarterbacks, because they change their formation so much and give you so many different looks, I think it's the toughest matchup for any rookie. So, no, I'm not off the Zach Wilson bandwagon, even though he's not playing with a full deck. However, the running backs, were decent. Michael Carter showed some life. He had 11 rushes, 59 yards. So not bad. He also had 2 receptions for 20 yards. But Ty Johnson is also very much in the mix. I think this is another one of those Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert situations, because neither one of them is really built like a workhorse. So I don't see either one ever fully taking over that role. Okay. So yeah. Elijah Moore also had 4 catches, 47 yards. So I think he could build on that. So don't drop him just yet. Another defensive game, the Eagles and the Niners. Interesting. I thought the Eagles was gonna win this game. A little disappointed. Well, I'm a Niner fan. It's weird because fantasy football has just screwed up my fandom because I'm disappointed. But meanwhile, I'm a Niner fan. Why am I really disappointed? Well, I am because I kind of picked the Eagles +3 at home. This still doesn't look like a very good offense. Their defense is pretty good, but now I believe they lost Brandon Graham possibly for the season, so they might take a hit on that. Hurts, I think, is a better fantasy player than real life player. I don't think he's really good passer, kind of like a Lamar, but not as dynamic. Hurts reminds me of kind of like, it's weird. He reminds me of kind of like a Lamar and Donovan McNabb, but Donovan McNabb was a lot better passer. I know Donovan McNabb is kind of like a little before your time, but Donovan McNabb was one of those quarterbacks that he didn't blow you away, but he won games. He won games, and he won it with his legs, and he did just enough with the passing. But he was a pretty good passer. He took the Eagles. He was always very underappreciated. He took the Eagles to like 3 or 4 straight NFC games. Took them to I think the Super Bowl once or twice. Never won it. And then finally, when he got Terrell Owens, he had a great year. So I don't think Jalen Hurts is as good a passer as Donovan McNabb. I think he's around Lamar Jackson's passing, but he's not as good a runner as Lamar Jackson. So he's kind of like a mix between the two. But I do think you could win with Jalen Hurts. But, yes, yesterday showed his limitations. And yes, he has some talent at receiver, but, Zach Ertz isn't the Zach Ertz we saw. Dallas Goedert is a good tight end, but he's not as good as prime Zach Ertz. Devontae Smith is a dynamic receiver, but he's still a rookie and he's a little smaller. But I don't ever think that Jalen Hurts is going to be like some prolific passer. He's just not built that way. And we saw that yesterday, and it was a defensive game. And speaking of not prolific passers, Jimmy Garoppolo, on the other hand, is not a prolific passer. And by the way, the Eagles, they were led by Quez Watkins, and it's going to be hard to trust, Quez Watkins. It's going to be hard to trust any Eagles receivers. Last week, it was Devontae Smith. This week, he had like 2 catches for 17 yards or something. Rager had a touchdown last week. Everybody was pretty much the only receiver this whole game that really did anything. If you want to count Quez getting 2 catches for 100, 2 yards. Well, one play was 91 yards. So the involvement wasn't quite there. He just had a big play. But no receiver outside of Debo really did anything. He continues his hot streak. He caught 6 for 93. But even Kittle had 4 passes for 17 yards, something, ridiculous. The running game couldn't get anything going. I told you guys stay away from Elijah Mitchell. Hasty actually looked like the better back, averaged over 7 yards per carry. I think Mitchell averaged 2.5. Hasty also had a couple catches. Only problem is Hasty injured his ankle. You know who else got injured? Trey Sermon, I think, suffered a concussion. And Elijah Mitchell got injured. But Elijah Mitchell came back in the game. So Elijah Mitchell just might be the guy by default. But he doesn't pass the eye test. So, Elijah Mitchell, hopefully you guys didn't blow your load on that. So outside of Debo and outside of Jalen Hurts producing, his fantasy points on the ground, there wasn't really much to say about this game either. Now, This is an interesting one. Steelers and Raiders. So I didn't feel good about this game. I stayed away. I didn't bet on this game at all. The Raiders, I think, are an underrated team. And now I think they're becoming an overrated team because last week, week 1, we heard whispers. It was like Derek Carr is elite because he beat a depleted Baltimore Ravens team at home who had to travel across the country. And that first half of week 1, he didn't look impressive at all. And now all of a sudden he beats another AFC North depleted team coming in there without the starting middle linebacker, their best Devin Bush, their best corner, Joe Hayden. And then they lost the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, in the first half. So, and yeah, he threw for 382 yards. A huge play of that came to that Henry Ruggs touchdown. Also, don't buy the hype on him. So, and now all of a sudden on ESPN, he's like, oh, Derek Carr he's been elite. No, you know what he's been? He's been done what he did the first 2 weeks. We've seen this from Carr. And I personally fell for this from Carr. So I'm still scarred because of Carr. Where I'm like, he's finally, and we're still talking about like 5 years ago where he was an MVP candidate before he got that huge injury under Jack Del Rio. So it's kind of like in the back of people's heads, okay, yeah, well, he finally got this and he finally got that. It's always an excuse. Like he didn't have receivers. Then he gets Amari Cooper. Then Amari Cooper just can't catch a cold. Then he doesn't have Amari Cooper. Now he doesn't have receivers again. There's always something with Carr. So I think I'm going to lean more towards fool's gold. History repeats itself. He's not somebody I would still feel comfortable, starting in fantasy. I feel like a lot of those numbers came at the second half and both games and overtime. Remember, week 1 went into overtime too. So I'm not buying the Carr hype. Darren Waller, even a bad game. That's how you know you're elite. Darren Waller didn't do shit, and then even in a bad game, he still gets you over 10 points. So Darren Waller is awesome. Brian Edwards was kind of a disappointment. I thought he'd take that momentum from week 1 and carry over and do some week 2. That wasn't the case. For Pittsburgh's side of the ball, I was thinking. So Big Ben looks like he should retire. He does not look good at all. Now, add insult to injury, that offensive line doesn't look good at all, whether it's run blocking or pass blocking. Najee Harris can't get it going on the ground, averaging less than 4 yards per carry. He did have a receiving touchdown, so you got to like that. He did play 100% of snaps, so you got to like that. So you got to like the volume. I was thinking as I was, evaluating the games, my first reaction was like, sell Najee on a pretty good game. Because, people don't really watch football. They just look at points and they're like, oh, well, he scored a touchdown. Cool. He scored a touchdown. Najee, he was a, end of the first, second round pick. Cool. But this is why it's important to look at everything. Now, I do think Najee Harris upside is going to be capped. And I've been consistently saying this since early in the offseason. I was like, I think the volume will be there. I think the floor will be there. But A, I didn't think he was that impressive on film. And B, Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the worst offensive lines. But here's what happens. And this is why you guys should be buying low on all the running backs right now. And I've said this throughout the years. In baseball, the hitters are ahead of the pitchers in the beginning. Pitchers haven't gotten in their groove. It's a groove thing. You know what I'm saying? Football, the offenses typically, although this week, I don't know why we had so many defensive games. I think bad coaching, just bad play all together. But typically, offenses are ahead of the defenses. And then the defense get it going. They start creating that synchronicity. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to gel. You got to trust the player that he's going to, cover that A gap. And, the secondary is going to, make sure the safety's playing his position over the top. So I know if I blitz or if I let him go, the safety got it. Takes a lot of trust, and that comes over time. One thing though too is that in the second half, as the weather chills, the running game becomes more prevalent. In the beginning, quarterbacks are just slinging it. These defenses ain't ready. The weather's warm. They're just pew, pew, pew. As the weather chills, especially when you're living in, when you play outside, you're not playing in a dome, the running game becomes more prevalent. And then the other thing is when we're talking about offensive lines need time to gel too. So a lot of times you see, especially if it's a new offensive line and they started, they'll play better in the second half. And we saw that with the Chicago Bears last year, actually. So I think it could be one of those situations that Najee Harris gets better as the season goes. You know what I'm saying? As the weather cools down, because then do you really want to tackle this fucking huge running back coming at you full steam? And then he's got the volume already and he's got the passing work. So I'm not going to say sell on Najee Harris. I think I had him as a hold last week. I think I'll continue to have him as a hold this week just for that. I still think his ultimate, upside is capped. But I think as the weather cools, he could get better. Nobody's going to want to tackle that guy in 30, 40-degree weather. I promise you. And then Deontay Johnson. Bro, Deontay Johnson, that guy's annoying. Now, I like Deontay Johnson a lot when he plays. He's talented. He just gets open. He's just slippery. He's hard to cover. But, man, the guy is just – I'm glad I don't got him on my team. Just because – look, guys, the most important thing in my life, just all football, is peace. I'm at the stage in my life I want peace. And that's why certain players I just avoid. Antonio Brown – I just don't know. This guy could just all of a sudden decide to murder his quarterback in the middle of the game. Like, I just don't know. There's just certain players that, yeah, they could be good, but I just don't want that headache. And Deontay Johnson is that guy. Like, I think Deontay Johnson was one of the biggest bargains in the draft in the 5th round, but I probably would have took him. There was a point where I would have took him. If he got really late 5th, early 6th, it just never got to that. But, like, man, it seems like every other play, this guy's going into the 10. This guy is just like, and he never misses games. That's the crazy part. He never misses games. He always comes back in the game. But it's just annoying, dude. Just so fucking annoying. Like, I just can't stand it. And Dalvin Cook's got a little bit of that. We'll get into that too. It's just, I just get annoyed. Like, I just can't. Like, I'm getting older. Like, my blood pressure, my heart, I can't deal with every single, getting the notification. Oh, Cook is over to the sideline. Deontay Johnson's being looked at in the 10. No, I don't want it. He's annoying. And Juju, I don't know what I ever saw in that guy. But Juju is what I thought, or Deontay Johnson is what I thought Juju would be minus the getting injured every other play. It ended up being, I was right in the sense, I wasn't right in the player, but I was right. My logic was right. So I know Big Ben likes to, just falls in love with that one receiver every year. So that part was right. I just picked the wrong guy. It was Deontay Johnson, not Juju. It happens. But what am I not doing? I'm not clinging on to Juju. Yes, Juju. You didn't hear me say a peep out of Juju this year. He ain't on none of my teams except Dynasty because I can't get rid of him for the life of me. You move on. You don't hold on to, oh, yeah, he's going to come back. You take an L, take an L. Juju. I don't know. Claypool. I like Claypool a lot. I think he's a really good player. I think he's definitely a good dynasty target as well. But I don't know if he's going to be able to live up to his full potential because Ben and more so that offensive line. And Ben just looks old and looks limited. Next up, a lot of people were tripping when I put, well, this is for those who purchased my my premium content. I had Kamara on my sell list. People were like, Kamara? And here's the thing, guys. When I tell you to sell somebody, it's not because they're bad players. Like, I didn't tell you last week to sell Brandon Ayuk. Because, first of all, what the hell are you going to get for Brandon Ayuk? The point is to sell high. You know what I'm saying? And Alvin Kamara is a damn good player. And he's safe. But I don't think he's going to be the Kamara that we've seen in the past. Because I don't think Winston's going to pepper him like Drew Brees. I don't think the Saints offense as a whole, I think they're hurting right now. But with that said, he's going to do better than what do you have? 8 carries. What? No, sorry. 5 yards on 8 carries and then 25 yards receiving. But what I tell you guys, this Carolina defense, I mean, they're good when I included them in my waivers. I never tell you, pick up a defense, use a waiver on a defense. When you ever heard me say that? Never. This defense is elite. So I also think we need to give Kamara a pass. Like, I don't want to just toot my horn like, oh, I told you to sell Kamara and he got 5 yards. No. It's not like that because Kamara is still a good player and he will have way better weeks. So it's not like it's like that. But I'll tell you one thing. Tony Jones looks really good too. And Tony Jones is going to continue to get his 35% snaps. Might steal some goal line touchdowns as well. So I'm playing in the red zone, I believe. I don't know. I was just watching 6 TVs. It's hard. That's why I got to go back and watch every game because when I'm watching it live and I'm drinking beer and I'm talking, my head's just spinning. But yeah, it's not much to like about the Saints offense. Callaway, guys, I don't know the exact snap counts and all that, but in week 1, he ran double the routes of every receiver. Week 1, he had Zaire Alexander, and, they just were up a lot. So I gave him a pass. I'm going to give him another pass this week. Because, again, how could I not? I just finished telling you that Carolina's defense is ferocious. So, like Elijah Moore, probably going to give Callaway and Elijah Moore at least one more week. Usually my threshold is 3 weeks. Any player could have a bad week or 2. 3 in a row, that's when it becomes a problem. Okay? So, yeah, I'm still holding on to Callaway because, again, just like Elijah Moore, look at Elijah Moore's first 2 games. Who did the Jets play week 1? Oh, Carolina, and then New England. Callaway, Zaire Alexander, and then Carolina. So that's why sometimes we have to be patient. It sucks. I'm not patient, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to trust what I saw in these players initially and give them another chance. And Panthers, they're just clicking. I mean, it's a lot easier to click when you got CMC. That guy is amazing. It's amazing. Freaking amazing. 65 yards receiving, had a rushing touchdown. Sam Darnold threw for 300, 2 touchdowns. DJ Moore looks like the clear number 1 receiver, 11 targets, caught 8 of them, 78 yards and a touchdown. Looking really good. Moving quite along. This is a tale of 2 cities. Teddy Bridgewater playing the best football of his life. Jaguars. Ugh. A positive, though, for James Robinson owners, have 14 touches. Carlos Hyde, 2. That's cool. And again, there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. Denver was one of my favorite defenses, too. I said they're top 3 defense, probably, as long as they stay healthy. And they've always been really good against the run. So you got to follow the volume. So I like the fact, and he had a couple catches, James Robinson. He actually averaged over 4 yards per carry, so he didn't look bad either. I think James Robinson right now is a buy low, especially, guys, running backs this season. Just running backs are getting harder and harder to come by in general. It's a cesspool out there. So if you could get James Robinson for a decent price, go for it. Guys like players like James Robinson, Tyson Williams, they're going to be very, very valuable RB2s. And right now, you could probably still get them for cheap because think about it. Gibson hasn't done nothing. Barkley hasn't done nothing. Taylor hasn't done nothing. Kamara just had a clunker. Derrick Henry had a clunker week 1. You know what I'm saying? So running backs are really – now, all those names I just mentioned, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Buy them all. But what I'm saying is, like, if even the superstars are struggling, think about the RB2s. Oh, CEH is struggling, which we'll get into now. So I think James Robinson, and again, you know, this is a young team. Shark missed substantial time. Marvin Jones is new. Trevor Lawrence is a rookie. This is one of those teams that could get better. Now, with that said, talking out of two sides of my mouth, I don't like what their offense is doing, though, as far as like play calling, just Urban Meyer as a coach. So that might be the one thing to hold him back. But who knows? He might quit or get fired midseason. Or maybe the coordinator or something. So long story short, I think there's some hope with James Robinson. Marvin Jones has been the most consistent receiver, had another touchdown week 2 after catching one in week 1. DJ Shark doesn't look good. Laviska Shenault suffered an injury. We'll see what happens with that. So Jaguars defense or Jaguars offense is not clicking. But the Broncos, man, I was hoping Javonte. Remember, you guys know this. I said temper expectations with Javonte Williams. I was like, yes, he's in a blow-up spot, but, you know, he's still splitting carries. But here's the thing. Javonte Williams had 64 yards rushing. Not great. But Melvin Gordon, with the same amount of carries, 11, I believe. Was it 11? Yeah. Had 31. Half the production, same amount of carries. So you got to like that. If he could take over that workload, obviously, and then he's going to get better as the season progresses. So, and Javonte Williams is a pass catcher, so definitely another buy low. So yeah, he didn't do anything crazy. But again, we got to look sometimes between the numbers so we could stay ahead and start, you know, getting some of these players for the second half or as the season, you know, winds down. Courtland Sutton. Anybody that knows me knows I've always been a Courtland Sutton fan, including this season. I said he'd be better than Judy. Now, of course, we don't know. Judy's hurt. I get it. But I don't see Judy putting up 9 catches for 159 yards. I just don't. Like let's say the tables were turned and then it was Courtland Sutton injured. I don't know. I've just always loved. I think Courtland Sutton is special. I tried trading so hard for him in my dynasty leagues. I think I did end up getting him in our followers league against you guys, and then I got him, I believe, maybe in best ball. No, I think I got Judy in best ball, the Scott Fish ball. Anyway, long story short, Courtland Sutton's awesome. If you got him, man, you're lucky. I tried so hard to get him in the 6th round. Could never happen. Except for that followers league. So yeah, he's good, guys. He's really good. And you know who else is really good? Tim Patrick. Scored in back-to-back weeks. I really like him. I was really surprised how he was going undrafted. Like, I get it. Like, they had Judy, Hamler, Noah Fant. Noah Fant looked good too. I told you I really liked him this game particularly. Jags bad against the tight end and everything, really. But he scored a touchdown. I think, you know, that's another position. It's hard. Like, we got to do our best to get a Noah Fant. Jared Cook laid an egg. A lot of people were high on him. I think, you know, outside of, I think there's really only 6 tight ends worth a damn. Kelsey's tearing it up. Waller, obviously. Kittle's starting slow, but he'll get it together. Hawk, beast. Pitts, Logan Thomas, and Noah Fant. I think we all got to try our best to get one of those guys because those are the only 7 tight ends that we're ever going to get any type of consistency. And they'll still be inconsistent. I mean, everybody's, you know, or have bad games. I shouldn't say inconsistent. But if you don't got one of those 7 tight ends, man, it's just going to be frustrating. So, yeah. That's that game. Cardinals and Vikings. This was a shootout. Cook got back. You see, this is the thing about fantasy football. It's tough, guys. It's tough. Like, you know, this game. Arizona was at home. Their defense looked lights out. And then Minnesota, they lost to the Bengals. They come in here, and Arizona just stopped Derrick Henry in week 1. And then Cook ended up rushing 22 times for 133 yards. And they let the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, scored 30 on them. Cousins had a good game, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jefferson and Thielen, relatively quiet, but they each had a touchdown. Osborne, actually, this kid looks pretty good. KJ Osborne, he led the team with 90 yards receiving and a touchdown. But yeah, fantasy football is just crazy unpredictable. Arizona's defense looked amazing at Tennessee. And then Tennessee, who couldn't do anything, goes to Seattle. It's crazy. But Rondale Moore had a really good game, but let's not get carried away, guys. He's still playing less than 50% of the snaps, way less than 50% of the snaps. It's going to be outside of D-Hop. It's going to be hard to predict. Week 1 was Kirk. AJ Green scored a touchdown. Yeah, it's just going to be hard to predict. That Rondale Moore, most of that came on a broken play because Kyler Murray's so good at those broken plays. So yeah, I wouldn't get carried away with Rondale Moore, but he is, a crafty player. He's a speed guy. He's got talent, but I wouldn't go crazy on that. Remember, follow the volume. He had 7 catches, but again, there's just going to be hard to predict. They run all these 4 or 5 wide receiver sets, so Kyler Murray just looks great. But yeah, 4 touchdowns. I think 3 in the air, 1 on the ground. Yeah, looking really good. And Vikings, Dalvin Cook gave us 101 scares. He's like the running back version of Deontay Johnson, I swear. But he's good. He's damn good. As long as he's healthy, you'll be happy using your lineup more often than not. Tom Brady. Dude. Seriously? 5 touchdowns? I don't care if it's the Falcons. I mean, Falcons should be kind of upset still about the Super Bowl. 5 touchdowns? 2 to Gronk, 2 consecutive weeks? I guess Bruce Arians likes tight ends now. Or Tom Brady's sold him on it. Because, damn. I mean, I know the matchup was good, but still. Wow. Mike Evans, back on track. I think everybody kind of saw that coming, including myself. I did mention him, DFS and stuff, probably in my preview as well. I mentioned AB's probably the odd man out. He was. It's going to be like that. There's always going to be one receiver that's out. Godwin, back-to-back touchdowns. And I also mentioned, if you guys follow my content, Godwin will be the most consistent. He's more the possession guy, gets those good matchups playing in the slot. Bruce Arians announced Ronald Jones is the starter. And who leads the backfield? Leonard Fournette, of course. That's going to be a shit show. I want no part of that backfield. You know what? And I was like, man, I put Ronald Jones on my buy list. I was like, Aaron said he's a starter. He's a pretty good runner. And all these Ronald Jones truthers that I see on Twitter, they just always by his side. But yeah, they're always by his side. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll give him a chance. I don't want to miss out. The lead back. Nope. No. All right. I gotta wrap it up. I'm not sure I'm gonna have time for your questions, but let me finish this last couple games here. The Seahawks Titans. I mean, Derrick Henry, Jesus Christ, 183 yards rushing, 3 on the ground, 6 catches, 55 yards. I mean, he's single. I've never seen a running back single-handedly bring his team back. Julio Jones against Trey Flowers. I know I say matchups are overrated, but this was going to be a high-scoring game. Julio Jones had the better matchup, 6 for 128, looked good. A.J. Brown, probably buy low. Had another lackluster game. There'll be better games. Seattle, Tyler Lockett, Jesus Christ. 9 catches, 178 yards, something like that? Yeah. 8 catches, 178 yards and a touchdown. DK, like his former teammate, A.J. Brown, there'll be better days. He's been quiet, I know. But trust me, when he breaks out, he'll break out. Carson didn't do much, 30 rushing yards, but those 6s add up quick. Had 2 scores in the ground. Russell keeps cooking. 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, not bad. And then we got this game. Herbert's kind of been a disappointment. Now, he has back-to-back 300-yard games, so you like that, but needs to get those touchdowns. Dallas. Wow. Lose Dexter Lawrence, and then they move Micah Parsons to defensive end, and that kid was a beast. That's a future superstar. Really impressed. So the 2 quarterbacks laid an egg. Austin Eckler does his thing, and then the Cowboy running backs do their thing, both Zeke and Tony Pollard. Now, a lot of people are concerned about Zeke. I get it. He had 16 rushes, 71 yards and a touchdown. Not bad. But you compare that to Tony Pollard, who had 13 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown, and Zeke owners are like that Homer meme. Like, it'll be fine, man. Tony Pollard's gonna get better looks because more people are focused in on Zeke, but I would still buy Zeke, no problem. But Tony Pollard might, Mike McCarthy's got a history for using multiple running backs in Green Bay. I remember when he loved Ty Montgomery for some reason and kept using him. So Tony Pollard might be every week flex, especially in that offense. Who knows? And more than just a handcuff. But don't worry about Zeke. CeeDee Lamb was the leading receiver. Mari disappeared, but CeeDee Lamb, 8 catches, 81 yards. That's why, bro. It's a week-to-week season. Don't get too high, too low. Everybody was happy. Amari Cooper had 38 points week 1, thinking that's gonna keep going. And he has less than 10 week 2. So it's just fantasy, guys. That's why we have to have a backbone. We have to have conviction. The players we like and the players we don't like. And then what do we got left? Oh, our Sunday nighter. I've been kind of like this with Lamar Jackson. So I was really wondering whether Lamar Jackson, his rookie year, he just couldn't throw a pass in the ocean. I was like, I'm worried about this kid. Like, I remember I saw him against the Chargers in the playoffs. I'm like, he looks awful. And then he played a little better in the second half. And then, there were some analysts that were kind of like, saying, oh, Lamar Jackson could be a sleeper. I wasn't really one of them. I had my guys. I liked Josh Allen and I liked Jameis Winston that year. And both did good. They didn't do as good as Lamar, obviously. And then I was like, wow, this kid really showed me. And he looked like he had pretty good zip on the ball and was throwing pretty good passes. And then what happened? Tennessee Titans came into town, and they just came up with a really good game plan, and they forced him to throw, and he looked back. He looked like that player again that was playing against the Chargers in his rookie year. So I was like, and then last season started off slow. I mean, most of his games, he didn't even throw for 200 yards. So I saw kind of like a regression in his passing. And then there was also a slight regression in his rushing. So I was like, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to be, I don't know if he's ever going to get it together. Because most of the times when we see these running quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, usually you either got that gift, you either know how to read a defense or you don't. Now, there's players and some of the best quarterbacks, let me tell you some have been turnover prone. The most interceptions to start a quarterback's career, you know who it was? Peyton Manning had 6 in 2 games. Matt Stafford had 5 in 2 games. Zach Wilson now has 4 in 2 games. So it's not about committing turnovers and interceptions, because a lot of these kids just have that gunslinger mentality. Far through a ton of interception. They just feel like they could throw it anywhere. But I will say this. Prime time. Backs against the wall. So many injuries. Your team's depleted. You're going against your arch nemesis, Mahomes, who you've never beat. And Lamar Jackson single-handedly brought the Ravens back. So I'm going to give him his due. However, especially since I said sell him, it's still in the back of my mind, can he do it when it counts? And I'm talking more of a real life. He's still going to be a good fantasy quarterback. He still played good towards the end of the year, but there was a lot of soft matchups. I just don't think we're going to see 2019 Lamar. But even if we see somewhere between 2019 and 2020, I had him as my quarterback 7, I think. So I think he'll be between 5 and 7. I don't put him ahead of Josh Allen. I don't put him ahead of Mahomes or Russ. I mean, I didn't have him ahead of Herbert. Dak, he might beat Herbert, though, but we'll see. I think Herbert's going to get together. I think he's going to get together. But, yeah, I just wanted to, because we have to be honest, when we're wrong. And I don't know if I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm not willing to, but I did pick the Chiefs, and what Lamar did last night was very impressive. So I wanted to address that. Marquise Brown is also doing the damn thing. And that was the other reason. I just kept seeing Lamar overthrow Marquise Brown so much last season. Marquise Brown's a good player. And he really picked it up from week 12 on, and it's carried over to these seasons. So really love Marquise Brown. And I really like Tyson Williams. And I think Tyson Williams is the player you want to buy. I mean, he fucked up with that fumble. He should have had a touchdown, but he was easily their leading rusher, looked the best the last 2 weeks. He's really good. He's a really good player. And if he tightens some stuff up, and if Latavius Murray continues to look shitty, I think it's always going to be a committee backfield. That's the way Greg Roman wants to do it. I felt Dobbins should have had more touches last year, whatever. But it's okay. In a running offense, in a potent offense, their defense is not as good. Tyson Williams, like James Robinson, maybe even more so, can be a solid RB2, and someday I'd be looking to pounce on. And then you got Chiefs side of the ball was weird. None of the stars outside of Mahomes and Kelsey really came to play. Tyreek Hill, I don't think you'll see many games where he has, 3 catches, 14 yards. Kelsey did the damn thing, 7 for 109. Looks like the Ravens are kind of shit against the tight end, or maybe they just faced the 2 best tight ends in the league. I don't know. But yeah, Mahomes 343, 3 touchdowns. CEH, a lot of people are wondering about CEH. I think before I knew where CEH was going, I had him kind of like an RB2, a Danny Woodhead, Devin Singletary, like a rich man's Devin Singletary. That's my scouting evaluation on CEH. Then all of a sudden, he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs, and everybody's like, this guy's Marshall Faulk or Damian Thomason. I think we get in trouble sometimes. And I've been guilty of this too. Not so much with CEH. I wasn't pumping him that hard last year or this year. But sometimes we fall in love with the situation. We just assume that they could certain coaches and certain systems could just plug in any player and they'll become a superstar. I think CEH is a good player. But one of the concerns I had last season was I know how Andy Reid is. And he just does weird shit. I remember with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt had a huge game, his first game, and then kind of like just didn't do shit. And then when they turned to Nagy to call the plays, that's when Kareem Hunt boomed and was the number 1 overall running back his rookie year. But Reid, he does weird shit. He goes away from the running game. You're not going to throw to the running back all that much when you got Mahomes and Kelsey and and Tyreek, and even Pringle and Robinson did their thing. And then, yeah, you're just not going to get 5 targets and 20 carries in the Chiefs offense. You're just not. So I do think there'll be better days. I think he'll be a high-end RB2. So I still think he's worth a buy. But I just think, he was a victim to being a first-round pick in the Chiefs offense. The Chiefs were so loaded. They're like, well, I don't know, what should we spend with our first round pick? Oh, let's buy this new toy. Mahomes, what do you want? Let's get a CEH. Let's get a running back. Okay, here's your new toy, Mahomes. But it was a bad fumble anyway. But that's my take on CEH. He is not great, but he'll be better than what he's been the first 2 weeks. All right. I'll look at the comments here. Sorry, guys. I gotta go. Comment any questions. I'll get to as many as I can. I'm gonna do that, but I have an important call I have to take, guys. But thank you for tuning in. Give a like before you leave. If you're interested in joining my crypto community that I mentioned, it's called Fantasy Token. I'm looking for graphic artists to redesign the logo. You'll be a big part of the team. Whoever wins this contest will get free fantasy tokens. We'll get all my products for the whole year, my betting services, DFS, premium content, and private Facebook group. So I'm really looking for that. And if you want to help promote it, get the word out, or invest in the token, help me help you take this to the moon. Love you guys. Peace. I'm out.